Good evening. This is Forum Daily for Friday, August 12th. I'm Nathaniel Dewick, filling in for Nima Rajan. We start this evening's newscast with a potential shakeup in the telecom sector. Rogers and Shaw have announced and signed a definitive agreement with Quebecor that will see the Montreal-based telecom acquire Freedom Mobile. Rogers will sell Shaw-owned Freedom to Videotron, which is owned by Quebecor, for $2.85 billion. Rogers hopes the deal will appease the concerns of federal regulators about its proposed takeover of Shaw. The agreement is consistent with the terms agreed upon back in June when the deal was first announced and is subject to regulatory approvals and the closing of the Rogers-Shaw merger. The city of Iqaluit has declared a state of emergency due to a water shortage. Nunavut's capital says there has been a lack of precipitation this summer and that flows in the Apex River are at a 40-year low. As a result, Lake Geraldine, which serves as Iqaluit's water reservoir, won't be replenished before freezing up. The city says it's working to get regulatory approval to pump additional water from the nearby unnamed lake into the Apex River, then Lake Geraldine. The city says it will need to pump more than 500 million liters of water. Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey says the fire situation in the central part of the island has changed for the better. In a social media video released late yesterday, Mr. Furey says the evacuation risks for the neighboring communities, including Grand Falls, Windsor, is now low. He says rain, wind, and air quality conditions have been favorable, and officials are now bringing back patients who had been evacuated from the town's healthcare facilities. 2 large fires have been burning for almost 3 weeks. The City of Toronto has said it's launched a full investigation into a massive power outage in the downtown core. Toronto Hydro says the outage, which hit over the noon hour yesterday, affected about 10,000 customers, and that power was restored to half of them by 6 p.m. Hydro One says the outage was caused when a barge, moving a crane in an upright position, ran into high-voltage transmission lines in the Portlands area. Well, Quebec Premier François Legault is getting an early jump on the fall election campaign with a pledge for new social and affordable housing if re-elected. The leader of Coalition Avenir Québec promised today to fund 11,700 new units in the next 4 years if his party wins a second term on October 3rd. Mr. Legault says his party would also subsidize rent supplements for 7,200 housing units for a total investment of $1.8 billion. While the premier has yet to announce an official start date for the fall election campaign, the main party leaders have been crisscrossing the province for weeks to hold public appearances and name candidates. Well, meanwhile, investment in residential construction fell 0.4% to $15.5 billion in June, marking the first decline in 9 months. Statistics Canada reports gains in the non-residential sector helped push overall construction up 0.3% to $20.8 billion. The total value of investment in building construction rose 3.3% to $62.3 billion in the second quarter, which was the third straight quarterly increase. Well, tax experts are warning that a new tax on yachts, luxury cars, and private aircraft designed to hit the super rich could also cover some electric and hybrid cars. The luxury goods tax, which comes into effect in 3 weeks, will cover vehicles, as well as private planes and helicopters, worth more than $100,000. The federal government will also bring a tax on September 1st on super yachts and motorboats worth more than $250,000. The Liberals say the tax is not designed to hit the middle class, but senior tax lawyer Helena Gagne says it could hit some electric and hybrid vehicles, such as certain Teslas and planes bought by enthusiasts as a hobby. Well, TELUS wants to increase the bills of customers who pay by credit card. The company applied to the federal telecom regulator to add a 1.5% surcharge starting this fall. This to cover the processing costs that the credit card payments incur. The increase, which TELUS says would work out to $2 per month on average, would apply to current and future customers outside Quebec. Saskatchewan Education Minister Dustin Duncan says he's confident that students at 3 independent schools are safe. But he's appointing supervisors to oversee them after a proposed class action lawsuit was filed, alleging physical, sexual, psychological, and spiritual abuse, including an exorcism on a student who came out as gay. The plaintiffs allege that the staff at Legacy Christian Academy, Grace Christian School, and Regent Academy stole their childhoods. Well, stay tuned. When we come back from the break, we'll have our weekly cryptocurrency and digital asset update with Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here. Of course, after that, we'll have news from around the world and around Canada. So stay tuned to Forum Daily. We'll be right back after these commercial messages. Welcome back. It is time now for Forum Daily's weekly cryptocurrency and digital asset update with Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here. All yours, Catherine.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly crypto and digital asset update. I am Catherine Murray. Well, we have seen the continued stabilization within the cryptocurrency markets, with the market cap reaching $1.1 trillion. Bitcoin is up by about 7% week over week, reaching $24,000. And importantly here, the 15-day realized volatility has fallen to the lows last seen in October of 2020. That's important, of course, because we've seen so much volatility within space and a risk-off mode. We've talked about the crypto winter. It seems as though that is finding some stabilization. Now, having said that, we are seeing the top 10 cryptocurrencies trade marginally lower this morning, but don't hold me to that because it is a 24/7 market. That could change at any moment. Now, of course, the key story to be aware of this week is that virtually all major cryptocurrency exchanges are facing regulatory scrutiny. Just to run through a few here, and it's important, Coinbase revealed in their SEC filings that it has received investigative subpoenas and requests from the SEC for documents and information about certain customer programs, operations, and existing and future products. Earlier this week, the U.S. Federal Trade Commissioner, the FTC, revealed it was investigating the operations of crypto exchange Bitmart in relation to a 2021 hack that saw the loss of about $150 to $200 million in losses. Interestingly, the probe represents the agency's focus on crypto consumer protection. The bottom line, though, here is that investigations go back to the debate as to whether or not cryptocurrencies are a security or a commodity. If it was a security, it would fall under the SEC, which of course the chair of the SEC, Gensler, believes it is a security, or it would fall under the regulations that regulate commodities. Bottom line here, the importance is that with widespread investigations of these exchanges, we actually might see a path forward for regulation. Doesn't even almost matter who regulates it, but that we will see a path forward, and therefore we could see more compliance. And with that big picture here, more compliance, more people feel comfortable entering the marketplace, and therefore wider adoption. In development news, Ether has surged to a 2-month high, up by about 16%, as Ethereum developers are setting a tentative date for September the 6th or the 15th for the network's final 2 upgrades as it transitions from a proof of stake to a proof of work. The upgrade is known as Bellatrix in Paris. It appears to be coming sooner than expected, hence the move higher in Ethereum. It's been long awaited and is expected to make the world's leading smart contract blockchain faster, more scalable, and more energy efficient. And according to Ethereum's co-founder, the upgrades will be great for decentralization. In adoption news, investment manager BlackRock is launching private trusts, allowing institutional clients direct Bitcoin exposure. BlackRock said that despite the steep downturn in digital assets lately, they are still seeing substantial interest from some institutional clients, really trying to find ways to access efficiently these assets. Recall at the beginning of August, BlackRock announced a deal with the crypto exchange Coinbase to offer institutional investors access to crypto, beginning with Bitcoin. And just to give some scale surrounding this news, BlackRock manages $9 trillion of customer funds. Now, the bears on crypto have, of course, been concerned about the lack of transparency of digital assets and therefore the ability to be used in criminal activity. However, we have seen cases where tracking has occurred, including the following. Dutch authorities arrested a suspected developer of the crypto mixing service Tornado Cash in Amsterdam. And according to authorities, the individual is suspected of involvement in concealing criminal financial flows. And as we know, with the elevated pain at the pumps, we've all been feeling it. Well, the higher energy costs, of course, are also affecting the crypto sector. And as we know, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy in mining. Well, Norwegian Bitcoin miner and data center operator Crypto Vault is relocating to the Arctic Circle to reduce energy costs. According to the firm's CEO, if they continued operating in Norway, their electricity costs would double, and it accounts for 80% of their operating costs. I'll leave it there. Nathaniel, back to you.
The Arctic. Well, thanks again, Catherine, for that. That was Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here, airing Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern only on the News Forum Network. We'll be right back after the break, so stay tuned to Forum Daily. Canadian study of almost 5,600 pregnant people has produced unexpected results. Researchers at the Canadian National Vaccine Safety Network found mothers-to-be experienced lower rates of health problems after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine than women who weren't pregnant. Senior author Dr. Julie Bettinger says previous studies have mostly reported no significant differences in health events or have found higher rates in pregnancy, so further studies are necessary. Well, Johnson & Johnson is pulling baby powder containing talc worldwide next year, replacing it with cornstarch. The company pulled talc products off store shelves in Canada and the US in face of thousands of lawsuits claiming a link to ovarian cancer through use for feminine hygiene or mesothelioma, cancer that strikes the lungs and other organs. J&J insists, and overwhelming majority of medical research indicates, talc baby powder is safe and doesn't cause cancer. Hundreds of cannabis stores across Ontario are going to start getting deliveries over the next few days. The Ontario Cannabis Store says it's adding extra shifts at its distribution center as it restarts systems turned off because of a cyber attack on one of its logistics partners. Many cannabis stores who must order from the provincial wholesaler have been without pot deliveries for a week. Several say their supplies are so low, they're worried they will lose customers. Well, Manitoba investigators say they have seized more than 543,000 contraband cigarettes from some convenience store owners in Winnipeg. The province says it was part of a lengthy project targeting retailers that sell illegal smokes. 3 suspects face charges under the Tobacco Tax Act, Tax Administration and Miscellaneous Taxes Act, as well as criminal code offenses. The province says the confiscated tobacco represents almost $163,000 in lost potential revenue. Well, Environment Canada has lifted heat warnings that covered inland sections of BC's north and central coast, but have left 2 ongoing warnings for the Fraser Canyon and North Thompson. The weather agency says daytime highs near 35 degrees Celsius should begin to cool this weekend. Air quality statements from wildfire smoke continue to cover southeastern BC from the South Thompson and Nicola regions east to the Alberta boundary. Well, a climatologist says forest fires that have been raging in central Newfoundland could be a sign of what's to come as the province feels the impact of climate change. Joel Finnis, an associate professor at Memorial University, says conditions that enabled the wildfires in the first place could become more common as the province heats up and its climate changes. 2 large fires have been burning since July 24th near Grand Falls, Windsor, and the nearby Bay d'Espoir Highway. Fires have intermittently shut down the highway since they first began. Well, former BC Premier Christy Clark says Jean Charest would be a fantastic prime minister and has endorsed the former Quebec premier as the next leader for the federal Conservative Party. Ms. Clark's endorsement followed an Edmonton speech to a room of Conservatives gathered to discuss the need for the party to stick closer to the political centre. Ms. Clark used to lead the centre-right BC Liberal Party and says the federal Conservative Party seems to be racing to the extremes. Well, the head of Canada's largest movie theatre chain is betting on a comeback for romantic comedies, biopics, and other mid-budget films. Cineplex CEO Ellis Jacob made the prediction as the company reported its first quarterly profit since the beginning of the pandemic. Mr. Jacob refers to the popularity of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis as a sign of what he hopes is coming. Despite a relatively modest budget of $85 million, the film managed to draw in especially older viewers who've been reluctant to return to theaters. Well, researchers and scientists say if they don't get better pay, Canada risks losing its best and brightest minds to other countries. More than 1,000 people have signed an online petition calling on the government to increase the cash and number of scholarships and fellowships available through Canada's three main granting agencies. Thousands of researchers have signed an open letter that was brought yesterday to Parliament Hill. While Halifax has welcomed 3 cruise ships to its port in one day for the first time since 2019. Halifax Seaport says the Caribbean Princess, Zandam, and the Adventure of the Seas cruise ships all docked in the city yesterday. 3 cruise ships have a combined capacity of more than 8,300 passengers. Well, up next, we've got more news from around the world, as a drought is officially declared in parts of the UK, which is reeling from drought along with almost half of Europe. Deadly floods collapsed thousands of homes in the already impoverished eastern region of Sudan. And we'll have more on the attack against author Sir Salman Rushdie while he was on stage being introduced for a lecture. This, and of course, more on the US relaxing some of its COVID-19 guidelines. We'll have these stories and more news like it from around the world after the break. So stay tuned. Forum Daily will be right back after these commercial messages. Newly released court papers show the FBI recovered top secret documents from the Florida home of former U.S. President Donald Trump. A federal judge has unsealed the warrant that authorized this week's unprecedented search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. An unsealed property receipt shows agents took 11 sets of classified documents from the estate. Some documents were not only marked top secret, but also as sensitive compartmented information, a special category meant to protect America's most important secrets. While an unprecedented drought is afflicting nearly half of Europe, it is damaging farm economies, forcing water restrictions, causing wildfires, and even threatening aquatic species. Water levels are falling in major rivers such as the Danube, the Rhine, and the Po, endangering shipping. On Friday, the UK officially declared a drought across southern and central England amid one of the driest summers on record. There hasn't been significant rainfall for almost 2 months in Western, Central, and Southern Europe. Well, a ship is approaching Ukraine to pick up 23,000 metric tons of wheat for hungry people in Ethiopia. It's only a tiny portion of the millions of tons of grain that has sat in Ukraine since the start of the Russian invasion. Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya are enduring the worst drought in 4 decades, with forecasts indicating that a rainy season will fail to materialize for a 5th straight year. Millions of livestock, the basis of many families' wealth and food security, have died, and up to 15 million people are in need of food assistance. Sudan's state news agency says that deadly seasonal floods have collapsed more than 2,500 houses in eastern Sudan, leaving thousands homeless in an already impoverished region. Another 546 houses were partially destroyed by torrential rains in the River Nile province, Suna said late on Thursday. Since the start of the rainy season in May, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that an estimated 38,000 people have been affected by floods across the East African country. While South Korea's president will formally pardon Samsung heir Lee Jae-yong. The news comes 1 year after he was released on parole from a prison sentence for bribing former President Park Geun-hye as part of the massive corruption scandal that toppled the Park government. The Lot Group chairman and 2 other top business leaders will be pardoned as well. This extends South Korea's history of leniency towards convicted business tycoons and major white-collar crimes. They're among some 1,700 people that President Yoon Suk-yeol will pardon on Monday. Mr. Lee's pardon underscores Samsung's huge influence over a country that relies on its technology exports. While police say Booker Prize-winning author Sir Salman Rushdie was stabbed in the neck this morning as he was about to give a lecture in Western New York. State police say he was airlifted to a hospital. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says the author is alive and getting the care he needs. Mr. Rushdie's 1988 book, The Satanic Verses, was banned in Iran for being blasphemous, and the country's leader issued an edict calling for the author's death. A $3.3 million bounty remains in effect for anyone who kills Sir Salman. A representative of Anne Heche says the actor remains on life support and under evaluation for organ donation after a car crash led to her brain death. Spokeswoman Holly Baird said in a statement that Ms. Haish is legally dead, but her heart is still beating so that she can be assessed as a donor. Ms. Haish suffered a severe brain injury when her car crashed into a home in the Los Angeles area last week and erupted into flames. Well, America's top public health agency is relaxing its COVID-19 guidelines. It's dropping the recommendation that Americans quarantine themselves if they come into close contact with an infected person. The changes from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are driven by the recognition that 95% of Americans, age 16 and older, have acquired some level of immunity, either from being vaccinated or infected. Well, it's National Vinyl Record Day in the U.S. The format has been experiencing a new revival after being given up for dead when CDs and digital audio arrived on the scene. Sales of vinyl albums are up a whopping 361% since the start of the pandemic. Forbes music writer Hugh McIntyre says when country, hip-hop, or dance artists become really big in vinyl, the format might just explode even further. Well, how about that? I'm Nathaniel Dewick, filling in for Nima Rajan, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. For more news on demand, please visit our website, thenewsforum.ca, and be sure to follow our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also watch all of our commentary programming and interviews on the News Forum YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.